Hey, this is Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and thank you for tuning in. This is my first die-cast video in over 10 months, and I'm tackling this Hot Wheels VW hauler. So after 10 months of an extended break, let's call it, for many reasons, health to be included in that, I'm looking at doing a custom of this VW. They call it a hauler. It's kind of a camper, but I don't know. Anyways, I don't know what you'd haul in it besides people. It's one of those castings that I've had kicking around forever, so I figured I'd go after it. I didn't realize when I started the project, I kind of had an idea what I wanted to do, and then once I picked it, I'm like, oh crap, this thing's like all plastic. And working with plastic's not my favorite thing to do, but I figured I'd give it a shot. So I'm going to take it apart, drill it out all the rivets, which really isn't that hard because it's plastic. And I knew I was going to be gluing this back together, so it just felt a little bit easier just to drill it straight out. And it comes in many pieces. The cab is a base, the plastic bottom of it, the plastic top of it, and the plastic windshield. The windshield's a little bit of a pain to get out because it's really snug, but I was going to be keeping most of the windshield anyway, so I wasn't worried about scratching it as long as I grabbed it from the back. Same thing with the hauler part of it. The base is steel, but yet or metal. The rest of it is all plastic, which is the part where the flames are, and then obviously the top part, that's the very light blue with the many windows. Overall, very, very easy to disassemble because everything is plastic. You don't have to worry about drilling any rivets or anything. Obviously, if you want to take more care, then you can really just go small on your drill bits so that you can thread in a real small, like a tech screw or something like that, to hold this all together. So I know what I want to do. If you've ever watched any of my videos, nothing has changed in 10 months. I still kind of half-ass go at a project with a basic idea of what I'm going to do, but at the end of the day, sometimes it changes. This one kind of stuck pretty close to what I actually had in mind. I'm taking my Dremel and a cut-off disc, and I'm trimming a little higher than I want to. My goal here is I want to put a cover on this, like a tonneau cover. Excuse me. So I want to make sure I cut just enough to get the top part off, but leave enough that I can sand flat and not worry about, making it easy to mount that plastic that I'm going to put on the top. So it's better to cut high and then sand down than to cut too much. I also wanted to make it a convertible, so I'm cutting the roof off and pretty much doing it at the A-pillar, and then I'm just going to cut it all the way around. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to sand it flat and make sure that I have, a good surface that's nice and clean, because this is going to be very visible. You could do all this with a knife or with a coping saw of some sort, jeweler's saw, but I'm so used to using a Dremel tool. I highly advise using a vise, not your hands. I still have all my digits, but that's, we don't know for how long. So if you're a small child watching this video, this is my disclaimer. Don't do what I'm doing. It's not, this was done by a professional, or one that pretends to be anyways. So I'm trying to get it fairly smooth. I am going to use sandpaper, but I'm trying to get the bulk of the heavier stuff, so I'm not sanding forever. I'm just very comfortable with a Dremel tool. I'm sure you could have probably got a clean cut right off the bat if you used a jeweler's saw, but for me, it's like an extension of my arm. I just find it easy to use. So this helps, for me, speed up the process. And it gets it down to a level where I can use the sandpaper, because it is a flat, or supposed to be a flat surface, so that helps. You can use a sandpaper. Just put a big piece down on your mat, press down on it, and sand it that way. Solves all your problems, and that's what I ended up doing at the end. Same thing with the cab. I just want to make sure things are smooth, round, and a combination of files and sandpaper, because it's plastic, will take care of the rest. The wheels I'm going to change. There was no point in keeping them. I just use a deburring tool on the Dremel, and it helped grind the two metal posts on each, or clips, whatever you want to call them, on each base. These are the Muscle Machines wheels. I just have a ton of Muscle Machines kicking around. Most of them are in pieces, but I got all the wheels. The problem with these, and it's not really a problem, obviously I want to keep the same width, so I had to grind down the back just a little bit to narrow it, and then also in the front, actually all the way around, every place there's wheels, the Muscle Machines axles are wider than the Hot Wheels. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just taking once again, my Dremel tool, and I'm widening the channel that the wheel axles sit in, both sides, and then you have to do a little bit in the middle. Every casting's different, but this casting's pretty solid across, so you have to groove it, check it, make sure it's smooth, make sure it's straight, and make sure it's deep enough. I had to go down probably about 1/8 of an inch on the front to get these wheels to sit just low enough where they're below the actual bottom of the chassis, so that it wasn't scraping. These wheels are glued on, and there's like a little bit of a thread, so not a big deal. You can just use your pliers, figure out what width you want, trim them, and then you can just glue the wheel back on. The axle's what spins anyways, not the wheels, unlike Hot Wheels. So this worked out really well. They're not the greatest things to work with, but they're not bad. And once again, because they are a much larger tire than what came on it originally, I had to do some fabrication on the back end. I'm using a drum sander on my Dremel tool to deepen and widen the wheel wells on the back part of the hauler aspect of this car. And that was pretty simple, nothing major, but you need that clearance. So, trying to find the right wheels that are going to work and then getting them to fit are two totally different things, but I was determined to make those wheels fit. So that's kind of the whole point of doing this. Next, I'm taking a piece of 1/16 styrene. I get it roughly trimmed to where I want it. That's going to cover the bed, or my tonneau cover. I'm going to glue that on there, then I'll be sanding it down. So this is the sanding phase. Because it's plastic, it's not like I can put it in a citrus strip, or maybe I could, I never tried it. But I'm getting rid of the body lines, the casting lines, and then I'm sanding off all the flames and all that stuff. It's messy, but it's something that you need to do, and it gives you a surface to put primer onto, and I ended up putting the primer on pretty thick to help fill in any smaller scratches that might still be available. So here I'm actually using a sanding attachment, I want to say 600 grit on my Dremel, just to get a little bit of that rough edge down. Then I'm going to take it down just a little bit more with a flat file on an angle, and then I will be putting it on some sandpaper flat to get it narrower. I don't know how to say it, but it was like 1/16 thick styrene, so I got it down to like 1/8 just by sanding it flat, and that kind of killed some of that harshness. And then I just went around all the edges with some 600, then 1200 grit sandpaper. Now it's pretty much ready for primer. I use this Autoborn sealer, and I like the stuff. This one was kind of old because all my paints are old because I haven't done anything and bought anything in a couple years. But it worked fine. It gave me that white base, and what was great about this is I'm going with a multicolor vehicle, and half of it's white. This stuff works awesome as just a regular paint. So the parts that are going to stay white, like the very tops of everything, once I painted it with this sealer, I didn't have to paint anything else. So I'm using a Splash Paints Go Mango, which is kind of like an orangey red. I apply that to everything except for the parts that are going to be white. Then it's time to do detail painting. The Splash Paints, I love them. I've used them in most of my videos as of, up until recently when I took a break. They're a two-part system, so they're base coat, clear coat. So if you like a matte finish, it's perfect. If you want a gloss finish, you have to apply a 2K clear, which is fine. This gave me the flexibility to do what I want. I like the gloss, so I'm going to be applying a 2K clear at the end. But the Splash Paints are ready out of the bottle. You shake up the bottle, you dump it in your airbrush, and you paint. You don't have to worry about mixing. You don't have to worry about anything, what concentration of reducer or anything. It's just perfect. So You can see the stuff I use. I get automotive 2K clear. I get it at my automotive supply store. I buy it in bulk, so that way I've had that for a year now, or a year and a half. This is the final product. This came out really good. It came out exactly how I wanted it to, except for the dust on it, which you can never get rid of when you go to do a final shot. I like it. For my first car back, I'm happy. It's getting there. I'm getting my feet wet again, so it's taking me a little bit. But this was fun. I felt good doing this, and I enjoyed the process, which was lacking before. So remember, most of this is just having fun. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.